getting.
But you see how much kidnappers are taking from victims.
My thing is, government should always say the right person. Get that, and I think we get that. The 3% for the oil producing community is too low.
But the support that is needed, and once you get the support, your airline will blossom.
This is Nigeria. You need to give people sense of belonging.
Good morning there. Welcome to Monday's edition of Inside Nigeria, reaching you on Leadership TV. I'm your co-host. I'm your host this morning because my co-host Bode Badebo is not available in the studio this morning. But I'm not alone anyway because I have a guest analyst with me to review the papers. My name is Winifred Webo, and I have with me in the studio Dr. Austin Maho. Dr. Austin Maho is a publisher, Daybreak Newspapers. Dr. Maho, you're welcome to today's Inside Nigeria.
Yeah, Winifred, nice to be here. You're looking fresh.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Like
the weekend.
The weekend had a great impact on your look.
Thank you so much.
Nice to be here again.
Thank you. And we hope to be seeing much of you on the program. Without wasting much time, we'll go over to our first paper on our menu this morning. And as usual, is Leadership Newspaper. On Leadership Newspaper today, which happens to be Nigeria's most influential newspaper, it says terrorism sponsorship allegation. Government officials not sponsoring terrorism, federal government declares. Terrorism sponsorship allegation. Government officials not sponsoring terrorism, federal government declares. Dismisses allegation as a disgusting distraction from counter-terrorism campaign. Troops kill top ISWAP commander, 29 others. Defense headquarters denies warning soldiers against coup. Leadership says terrorism sponsorship allegation. Government officials not sponsoring terrorism. Federal government declared. Dr. Maho, what's your view on this? You know, there has been allegations that the federal government officials and even top political leaders are the ones sponsoring terrorism or fueling terror activities in the
This is
so
this is an last week.
Yes.
If you remember, there was this group in the United States. It's a research institution actually. What was their name again? I can't remember their names now. They gave a report.
Oh yes. Yes, I will.
We'll get it. But it should be in the body of your story. Yes. And I think it's whether FADE or something. So they gave a report which indicted the federal government of sponsoring terrorism. And they gave reasons why they felt that the federal government cannot.
And there's a publication too in the US also that also gave a damning value that some soldiers were selling arms to
terrorists. All these allegations are there. Even within the terrorist group themselves, there have been stories, about how do they get weapons. Because revelations have shown that most of the weapons they are using are weapons from the Nigerian army. So when you begin to see such stories backed up by evidence, whether rightly or wrongly, but evidence is evidence. You can't have a terrorist organization and they seem to be well armed, and most of these arms they are using, whether it's light weapons, heavy weapons, or armored personnel carrier, anti-personnel equipment and all that, and you trace the origin of those equipment to the Nigerian army itself, it raises suspicion. Was it that these weapons were sold to them? The Nigerian army acquired this equipment, and some dubious elements within the force sell this equipment to the Nigerian armed forces, or is it that they attack Nigerian army formation in the northeast and carted these weapons away as booties of one and not using them to fight the Nigerian army. So these issues are there. Added to that, there have been speculations about individuals within the government who are alleged to be sponsors of terrorism, which the government itself, as at May this year, told us, look, we have identified.
Yes. And sorry, the organization, we're trying to get the name. It's actually Global Advocates for Terrorism Eradication.
Yes.
GATE.
Mm-hmm. They are the one that released this report.
Yes.
So, expectedly, Lai Mohammed reacted to the statement, last week, calling them all kinds of names, saying like as quoted in the leadership newspaper, quoting Lai Mohammed, I can see the statement that the so-called global advocates for terrorism eradication is pesky, irritant, that should be ignored, especially because it is as confused as it is irresponsible. Strong words coming from the Minister of Information. However, in times like this, I expect government not just to craft a response to the accusation, but to give evidence to show or to counter whatever evidence this global body, GATE, has put out there. You counter it not by words of mouth, but by evidence. You put alternative evidence out there, or the real facts out there for the public to know that, look, government is not part of this. Government is doing its best, to stamp out terrorism and all forms of criminality from the northeastern part of the country. Not mere words, not mere reaction to a statement, which to them is based on research and what is available out there in the public. For instance, you can ask the federal government, if you are saying that you are not part of the problem in the northeast, why is it that in May this year you said we are going to make public names of people who are sponsoring, who the government has said they've identified who are sponsoring terrorism? Why is it that today you are playing politics, seemingly playing politics? You have not been able to come out to say these are the people we are prosecuting in relation to terrorist activities within the country. But each time the issue comes up, you don't answer. So you leave room for a lot of speculation, for people to assume that there's more to meet the eye, that those who are involved in these activities and sponsorship of terrorism, they're actually part of your government. And relief them and making their name public is like indicting the government itself. And this is not how to run society. I believe that we hope and pray that, look, nobody no responsible person within the government is actually involved in terrorist activities or sponsorship of terrorism. But we do hope going further that the government itself, should save its own image and make known to us those who are actually involved in terrorist activities or terrorist sponsorship within the country and put this matter at rest.
Yes, Dr. Maro, do you think why do you think there's laxity or lack of political will to actually tackle terrorism? Because we saw during the time of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, he actually said that members of within his government, and this considering this present administration, we've had even the Economist did an editorial. The fact that some members of government, some soldiers were also sponsoring terrorism, selling arms to Boko Haram. Why aren't now GATE? Why is there no political will? What is happening?
What I see is that the government, or rather, terrorism has become an industry in Nigeria. People now talk about commercialization of violence. People are making profit
From it.
If you look at budgetary allocation in Nigeria in the last 10 years, from Jonathan's administration all through Buhari administration today, you are going to find out that budgetary allocation to the defense sector and associate institution within the defense architecture in Nigeria, their budgetary allocation at times has almost quadrupled. It has doubled, tripled, quadrupled. So there's a lot of money, and which people benefit from it. And people who benefit from crisis are what some people call crisis entrepreneur. Crisis entrepreneur. When there's crisis, they benefit. How do they benefit? Increase government spending, increase government contract for procurement of one thing or the other. So they don't want the crisis to end. So why? At times people ask, why is it?
Without consideration for the number of lives that have been lost.
The consideration most people understand is what comes into their pocket. They don't care about life. They don't care about the country. They don't care about anything. So that is why government should be able to must have the political will to be able to deal with the situation. There will always be forces for within government itself. There will always be forces for and against. But government should have the wherewithal to do the right thing, know the right thing, and do the right thing. If Jonathan, for instance, told us that there are Boko Haram elements within my administration, do you think there are no Boko Haram elements within the Nigerian armed forces, within the federal government itself? They are there. Even if they are not openly there, there are Boko Haram sympathizers within the government. And these people who are in position of authority will always shape government policies in such a way, because they're in position to shape government policies. They will always shape government policies in such a way that it frustrates government efforts in its determination to stamp out terrorism, Boko Haram, and other forms of criminality from the system. But the essential thing is that people benefit from crisis. And those who benefit from crisis will not in any way want the crisis to end. They will do anything possible to go on fueling the crisis so that the benefit comes to them. Look at what happened over the weekend.
Yes.
I hope you saw the story with the attack on Uba local government, Askira, Uba local government of Borno State.
Yes, a brigadier general. It was actually going to give
support.
So very unfortunate.
So these are the issues that we are looking at. Crisis will never end. Government on its own has not even shown the political will to put this into an end.
I saw a video, a trending video where we saw bandits. They had these all manner of weapons, and they were demonstrating it with fanfare. They had a large crowd rejoicing because they were.
No, at times when you look at what is at the plane in the country within the last 10 years, you are forced to worry. You worry in the sense that the Nigerian army itself, in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they seem to have recorded, from media reports, recorded a lot of, not casualty on their side, recorded a lot of successes in the war against terrorists. They told us as of last week, I think Thursday, Friday, that they killed top commanders of ISWAP. You understand? Then 2 days later, you now had the unfortunate attack. And if you read the story very well, even as reported by leadership newspaper, that this terrorist, this ISWAP element, they came in a long convoy of vehicles, and about 10 of those vehicles, they had these what they call RPG launchers. They have these anti-aircraft guns mounted on top of the vehicles, and they drove all the way from wherever is their hideout to come and attack a super camp of the military in Askira local government, in Askira town in the local government of
Borno State.
So the question you naturally ask yourself is that why is it that the military seems to always react to attack? Why should the military be sitting like, you are sitting like a sitting duck and waiting for them to come and attack? Why don't you take the battle to them? Is it more equipped than you? Why did they attack you up to the extent that you are now calling for reinforcement? And of course, the natural question is, before they traverse the forest or wherever is their base to come to your camp to attack you, is it that you didn't get information that these people are coming? Or you don't have the resources to stop them on their track? The Nigerian Air Force, for instance, we know have acquired a lot of capacity and capability, air capability.
Tucano jets that were acquired.
So why don't you deploy these facilities to monitor them even before they even leave wherever is their base, and start driving into a local government.
They could have
A
just
time
taken
you
them out.
you take them out. So there are a lot of questions when in terms of the prosecution on this war on terrorism. And when an organization like GAT now say, look, if you people have not been able to stamp out this terrorist activity within a specific period of time, with the humongous amount of money that have been devoted to this fight, it means that government or elements within the government are involved in this terrorism. So it's not enough for Lai Mohammed to come out and say, look, what they are saying is rubbish. Whatever anybody is saying is based on the evidence on ground. If you have contrary evidence, make it public so that Nigerians can judge.
Okay, thank you so much, Osmao. Away from terrorism and issues, we are moving to business, that is the economy, and that is from our sister publication, the National Economy. The National Economy on its cover Monday, 15th November 2021 says new revenue sharing formula to confer more responsibility on local government areas. New revenue sharing formula to confer more responsibility on local government areas as revenue mobilization and as ROMA
Mobilization and Fiscal Commission.
Yes, Fiscal Commission, thank you. Set to approve 15.2% revenue increase for local governments. Says experts say more funding will fast track infrastructural development. That is on the national economy. So, what is your take? Because the revenue mobilization and fiscal committee has been going about that the revenue sharing formula presently is outdated. You understand? And now they want to review it. That's been going about the having sittings. So, what is your take on this? Now that they said they want to increase revenue increase for local government, 15.2%. Don't forget that the local government is still not that autonomous.
Yeah.
It will still end up in
that is the Nigerian
in the hands of
the Nigerian
state
conundrum.
government. Yes.
Nigerian conundrum. Government comes up with policies which is supposed to address problems, and now find out one way or the other, those policies that are supposed to address a specific problem or problems end up creating new problems. Yeah. So you now find out that government policies at times, no matter how good they are on paper, when it comes to implementation, it's a different ballgame altogether. It's all been agreed that look, by development economists, that the best way to grow a country is bottom up, not top bottom. In the Nigerian situation, we know that we've always done things bottom up. That's why the federal government will always appropriate to itself the largest chunk of funds from the federation account, then states, then before local government. These attempts are strengthening the local government, which is the third tier of government, which we always say is the tier of government closest to the people.
Yes, grassroots.
Because you don't have to have a bad road in my local government, and I'm waiting for the federal government to come and fix it. I don't need to have a small health care facility in my local government area. I'm waiting for National Primary Health Care Development Agency to come and fix it or equip it or make drugs available. If the local government can be empowered to be able to handle problems at the grassroots, Nigerians will be better for it. Then we'll now adopt a model, which is a universal model, which has helped other countries in the Western world to grow, whereby development starts from the grassroots. A bottom-up approach towards bringing the so-called dividend of democracy to the people, not top-bottom. So one way of doing that is local government autonomy. And when you grant local governments autonomy, the natural thing to do is that the local government should have the wherewithal, have more funding, more allocation from the center in order to carry out development projects, infrastructure, healthcare, roads, bridges, general things that bring succor and improve the lives of I think that is what we ought to do. But in the Nigerian system, my fear has always been that all policies, geared towards changing the narrative about the Nigerian situation seems not to work.
Yes.
Government should have the political will to do it at the federal level by allocating more funds to local government. May not be the problem. The problem will be most state governments, irrespective of the fact that local government are supposed to be autonomous, are more interested in funds coming to the local government in such a way that when the funds come to the state, the governor, who is like an emperor in his state, decide how much to give to the local government and hold the vast majority of the funds that are supposed to accrue to the local government to itself. So what that tells you is that the funds local government gets at the end of the day is just enough to pay salaries. Once they pay salaries, they don't have any funds anymore to do any form of developmental activity. So at the end of the day, what we have as local governments in Nigeria is just a waste of time. If you have a whole arm of government, structure of government, a whole structure of government not doing what it ought to do, you may as well dissolve it and let the state absorb all the powers of the local government.
Dr. Maho, we are having a situation that most local government councils in the country, they only go there when it's time to receive money from their state government to pay salaries, and that is that. There's no other economic activity in most of our local government councils, which is very, very sad.
That's the point. That's the point I was making. When the fund comes, when the funds comes from the federation, the governor calls the local government. Hey, how much do you need for salary to pay your staff salary this month? The local government will say, okay, well, we need so and so. And the governor knows that, okay, let me see your staff list. You bring the staff list, you look at it. Okay, they need X, Y, Z amount of money. And you now call his account Nigeria, pay him so and go and take care of your salary. You understand? It's an aberration. You can't have a full arm of government elected by the people, because most of these local government we are talking about, they are democratically elected executives of their local government, and the people that elected them elected on the basis that they are going to do one or two things to improve the life of citizens and the infrastructure in their local government area. So if the government go on appropriating all the funds meant for the local government to itself, it's a huge problem, and which we ought to tackle, as a country, because we can't continue like this. So good that from what national economy ran with at its lead cover this morning, that more funds will be appropriated to the local government. But I think, in my mind, it is where this fund is going to. Whether these funds will be used to meet the end that was meant to achieve. You release funds. Do the local government chairman have the wherewithal, the power to be able to say, okay, these are the funds allocated to this person. We want to use it for this, not just paying salaries and other emoluments to local governments, and that is it. So more funds may not necessarily be the problem. The problem is local government. So that as a third tier of government, people can actually hold them accountable.
Thank you so much. From national economy, we have the Nigerian Tribune on our menu. Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune says this Monday morning, APC cloud over convention, agreed members fail to shift ground. APC cloud over convention, agreed members fail to shift ground. Consensus tears apart Plateau chapter. Ekiti APC faction insists on court case. Matawale Marafa's field deepens in Zamfara. APC National Secretary Akpabio sustained supremacy contest. Oyo chapter divided over harmonization of state expo. It is potpourri of stories
Mhm.
on Nigerian Tribune this Monday morning. Dr. Ma, what is your take on this? So the focus now is on APC, considering the fact that PDP has successfully had its own convention.
The truth remains is that we must, irrespective of the hitches and glitches, the fact that some people believe that PDP will implode or explode after its convention, we have to give it to the PDP that they were able to conduct a successful national convention and came up with what August has become a consensus candidate, an acceptable candidate. And most of the position, national position in the PDP, were actually reached by consensus.
Yes.
It's just a few of the positions that we actually contested, which is good for them. You understand? Before going for the convention, you agree this is who we want. And for party members across board to support that candidate. If you know party politics in Nigeria, you know that that's a huge challenge. And for PDP to have been able to scale that hurdle, manage the situation, and the crisis that ensued thereafter is a huge plus. No, comparable. You've not comparably, you now compare the situation between PDP and the APC. You don't have to envy the APC at all. The APC started the attempt to hold its national convention. It has done what local government congresses, there have been problems, starting from the ward to the local government and now to the state. And what played out in the states a few weeks ago is that APC, as we speak, in about 22 states, they have factional chairmen of the party. There are even some states where they have about 3 different chairs in one state. So the problem is that moving now in an attempt to have a national convention where the national leadership of the party will be agreed on is what is causing this potpourri, like you said, of stories in the Nigeria where in Zamfara State we have Mata Wale Marafa, including Boni, the chairman of the convention committee or the so-called interim management committee of the APC. They are they are at war. In fact, if you see the words they used against each other, even I read that story today, I think, in the leadership also, with the Ghanese and with the authorities in the state. You understand?
Yes.
So you can see that, however, then you add that apart from what is happening, the internal dynamics of party politics playing out within the APC, and now adding to the fact that they may have to APC said may have to contend with the issue of legitimacy in terms of the Supreme Court verdict recently on the legality of the Buni-led executive caretaker committee. You know that APC, they have a long road to travel, and the cost is not clear. When you look at
that is just what I want to interject. Don't you think that eventually APC will come out with a trump card, because everybody expected that APC will improve after 2015, that is 2019, but it's still standing. So
I don't know I don't know the leg it is standing on. Whether it is one leg or no leg. From all indications, APC is not standing. APC, come on, you are journalists. Look at the stories coming out. Where is APC really standing? Where is it standing? APC is at war with itself. It's at war with itself. We have barely a year to the general election. Throughout next year, is going to be election candidate and everything. PDP seems to have taken the lead. They've done their national convention. They've done their zoning, whether anybody agree with it or not. APC has done nothing. APC have not they don't have, I just told you that in 22 states, they have factional chairmen. In fact, in some states, they have 3 chairmen. How are they going to resolve that issue? Going into, from what I heard, they are supposed to hold their national convention next month. How are they going to resolve all these problems? And the so-called Brunei Committee was set up ab initio to address all these problems. But his committee has created more problems for the APC and has solved no problem. And going into a national convention, the way they are now, there's no hope for that party. You understand? I'm talking about internal crisis within the APC itself. And you still look at the legality of the so-called caretaker committee contraction. So they are facing a lot of crises left, right, and center. So however they are going to manage the situation and come out of it unscathed, I don't know.
So we move over and are inside Nigeria this morning. So our last paper on the menu, or we should be going on a break for now. When we come back, we take our last paper on the menu. Don't go away.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. This is Inside Nigeria, reaching you from Leadership Television in Federal Capital Territory of Abuja. My name is Winifred Weber, and we are still on Inside Nigeria to review our papers for today. And of course, we have our last paper on the menu, which is Daily Sun. With me in the studio still is Austin, Dr. Austin Mahmoud. Dr. Austin, thank you so much for lending your voice in reviewing our papers today. We have the last paper now on the menu, and it's Daily Sun. Daily Sun newspaper says our trade over 54% hike in electricity meter prices. Our trade over 54% hike in electricity meter prices. Rising cooking gas prices, energy tariff worsening plight of Nigerians. That is from Christian Association of Nigeria. Actually, can you lift it up? We resist fresh hike, says consumer. We resist fresh hike, say consumers. Actually, over 54% hike in electricity meter prices. Dr. Mao, this story has been trending over the weekend, and the people expressing outrage about it in most of the platforms I belong to. What's your take on this? And my own take personally is that it's not just only meter prices, even electricity. Nobody noticed that there's been another
consistent increase.
Another hike, because I went to purchase buy units on Friday. I discovered that they have been increasing.
No, that is is in Nigeria. It is what to expect. It's as if this government is determined to inflict as much suffering on the average Nigerian as possible. You understand? The government is determined, as it will seem to the ordinary man, that it is governance is not about bringing succor to people. It's all about inflicting as much pain on the citizen as much as possible. The price of energy across the board in Nigeria today has gone over the roof. There's no hiding place anymore. Cooking gas. The last time I checked, it has moved from 3,500 to about 10,000. How many percent increase is that?
That's over 100.
100%, or over 600%.
That's what I'm saying, like over 100.
Mhm.
At least that's
Yeah.
as far as what my maths are telling me.
And you don't look at the implication of that on the citizens of this country. When you even come to fuel, you are still looking at energy.
Yes.
Government is threatening you every day that they will soon increase the price, the pump price of
Subsidy is
fuel.
going to be removed.
Remove totally. And you should have no illusion about that. They are going to-
400 and
that you are looking at landing costs and costs at fueling yourself.
beyond.
So everything is increasing. Then where do you have succor? Is it electricity? We just told you that meter prices are going up, and they quietly, unannounced, increase the cost of buying a unit of electricity.
Yes, that is what
Yeah.
pains
Many-
me.
many-
That
many-
nobody
many-
knows. They
no,
didn't
many-
announce it.
they
They
didn't
didn't
tell
bother any longer
because-
because they know that there will be
And maybe
outrage.
they are actually because they know that when Nigerians wake up and see that the price of their electricity has gone up, they just take it.
Yes.
It is like we've been
That-
taking
like-
every other
Yes,
other
of course,
thing
and we are still going to take it.
without crime. So it has gotten to that. There was a time in Nigeria where we had bodies, where we have the NLC, where we have the civil society being able to hold government when it arbitrarily take action that affect the citizens negatively. But these days everybody's tired. Everybody's tired. Whatever happens, the average Nigerian now just take it with equanimity. So it is actually sad. It's a tragedy that government who ought to act in the interest of the people is acting in this manner. But what do you say? I equally feel that for government to win the trust of the people, to be responsible government, when you come up with such a policy, you should at least have the honor to explain it to your citizens why you needed to do this. We all know, for instance, that electricity, whether it's generation, transmission, and distribution, is in the hands of private individuals. We equally know that these private individuals have made tons and loads of promises when they took over these assets from the federal government, which they have not fulfilled. We equally know that government has paid huge sums of money by whatever name to these electricity companies to be able to generate, transmit, and provide Nigerians with what you call reliable electricity. And we know that they have not, since these companies were handed over to them, state-owned enterprises were handed over to them, they have not been able to improve the standard of electricity we get in this country. All we see every day is inflicting as much pain on Nigerians as possible in terms of tariff, in terms of cost of procurement of meter, which in the Nigerian situation is funny anyway, because anywhere in the world, meter ought to be free. It's like you giving me a tool, to bill me for the services you are rendering, and you're asking me to pay for that tool. It's like going to a filling station to go and buy fuel, and you have to be the one to pay for the meter dispensing unit, fuel dispensing unit. So it doesn't make sense. But here we are in Nigeria, and we have an electricity regulatory commission that ought to curb the excesses of these successor companies to NEPA. But they are running amok, doing whatever they want to do, and inflicting this quantum of pain and hardship on Nigerians, and nobody can say it.
Thank you so much for your thoughts this Monday morning. To us tomorrow, it's been a pleasure having you in the program.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be calling you today on today's presentation program inside Nigeria from Leadership TV. Don't forget, tomorrow is another day, and I want you to keep a date with us. My name is Winifred.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.